Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jamie. If you've been here before, then I welcome you back. And if this is your first time visiting my channel, then thank you for joining in. I am just someone who likes to cook and make cooking fun. I don't think it should be stressful. I think you should try different recipes and experiment. And I know a lot of people that get stuck in a routine where they only make the same, 6, 8, 10 meals, and they don't try anything different. So I try to use typical ingredients that most people would already have in their cupboards, their freezers or refrigerators. Try to throw them together and see what I can make out of them. And hopefully, if I'm successful, they're good. Otherwise, well, we'll pitch them. So today it is a cold, windy November day, and I heard on the radio on my drive back from an appointment this morning that tomorrow's high is only 39 degrees, and it's supposed to be cold and raining and possibly some wet snow. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good weather pattern for chili. I mean, who doesn't like a good chili whenever it's cold out? So today we are going to make a very simple, basic chili. And I will show you my recipe, and hopefully you like it. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I got all my ingredients set up here, getting ready to start. And what I'm going to start with is a pound of ground beef, right there. I'm going to cook that over medium to medium-high heat. And then once it's browned off, I will put some paper towels in a colander and drain the grease off of it for a few minutes. Just, to keep some of that grease out of our chili. And then, let's start with, I got a medium-sized crock pot. At least for me, it's a medium size because I got one smaller. Then I got one tiny, tiny one. And then I have one great big gigantic one. So this is my medium one. And the first step I'm going to add is my kidney beans. Now, I personally like the light kidney beans. When you get with the dark red kidney beans, they're a lot harder. They're not quite as soft. So my preference is the light red kidney beans. However, you can use the dark if you want. A lot of people use different types of beans, butter beans, navy beans, whatever beans you want is fine. This is probably more about the spices and stuff than it is the beans, maybe, depending on if you're a bean person or not. So I'm going to use 2 cans of light red kidney beans. These are the small 15.5-ounce cans, or you could use one of the large cans. I'm just going to dump this right into my crock pot. Try to get all the beans out. And they're being stubborn. Of course that happens when you're on camera, right? Alright. Alright, my second can. A little bit easier, but they're 2 different brands, so perhaps that's why. I don't know. Alright, so I'm also going to add a can of Great Northern beans. The white really breaks up a lot of those red beans. Like if you're using like a pinto bean and a kidney bean and a chili bean. And so that white actually, if you've seen any of my other ones, you know that I'm big for the color coordination stuff. So, put those Great Northern beans in and put that little bit of white in there. Break up the red. Alright, then I got some chili beans. Doesn't matter if you like the mild, the hots, whatever. It's all personal preference at this point. So, that's a can of Great Northern, a can of chili beans, 2 small cans of kidney beans or 1 large. And then I am also using a can of petite diced tomatoes. Now those are small, like very small chunks. If you can hear back here, I'm also sizzling my ground beef. Alright. Alright, and then I have a can of tomato soup. Now I am using a low sodium one. Doesn't matter which kind you want to use. I'm going to go ahead and flip over my ground beef here, because we don't want it burnt. That would not be good to start off with burning our ground beef. Okay, now I do have whole peeled tomatoes. I have 1 can of that. This is a 14.5 ounce can. And what I like to do there is, see if I can find a knife. Alright, a steak knife will have to do. So, they're supposed to be peeled. This one still has some skin on it. Okay, what I do here is I just check them, like bigger chunks like this, and throw them in. So I know we already have our petite diced tomatoes in here, but just look at that big bite of a tomato. And of course I don't like the top part. You know, where it hangs off the vine on the garden, that little hard piece on the top. I always take mine out. Doesn't matter if you really don't want to take them out. You can make these chunks as big or little as you like. And if you like the smaller chunks, instead of using it 1 can of the petite diced tomatoes and 1 of the whole tomatoes, you could actually just do like 2 of the diced tomatoes instead. And I'm actually taking the juice out and dumping it right into this crock pot. We're going to use it. It's just water, tomato-based water. I'm going to throw that right in there with that for the flavor. Okay. Give myself a quick rinse here. And of course you can't see that because my sink is behind the camera. Alright, now let's start with the seasonings. Now I will use, I will use the packet of the chili seasoning. Because I am big on seasonings. But I will also add my own seasonings. Because, quite frankly, I find those chili packets a little bit bland. Okay, my ground beef's about halfway done. Just make sure you keep on turning that over and getting it all mixed up, and we don't want to burn that. Okay. So if you watched my videos before, you know I typically don't measure. And I'm trying to break that habit, because if y'all are following me, you know, in these videos, oh, that was nice. Right. Made some stain remover for the shirt. So, if you've been following me, you know, if we're going to cook together, you're going to have to know how much of what to put in, right? And me, I'm old school. That's the way I was taught. And so I just kind of wing it. Well, we're going to try to measure today. So, I've got some chili powder. If I had to guess, but what I would normally use, I'm going to guess a teaspoon. So, let me see what this looks like. So I can tell by the look of it. That actually looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to say a teaspoon of chili powder. Alright. Then, well, that's not then I have my parsley flakes, and you know, I like my greens on my red. So, like whenever I make a sauce meal, I always like to add oregano and parsley for the color. I like that little pop and that you get on top. Or if you're new here, you don't know that, but now you do. Oh my gosh. And these things are a pain. I can never get them open. There we go. We got it. Perseverance. Okay. So, for the parsley flakes, honestly, I'm going to guess a tablespoon. So, let me see what this looks like. Perfect. Okay. Now we got some dried minced onion. Again, I'm gonna guess about a teaspoon. There's my teaspoon. And it looks like perfect. 1 teaspoon of dried minced onion. And then I'm also gonna do a teaspoon of the dried minced garlic. Perfect. Take a moment to stir up my ground beef over here. Okay. Now, we have garlic powder. Let me start with a 1/2 teaspoon. See what that looks like? That's perfect. Okay. So 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. See, I'll get the hang of measuring one of these days. Till then, just bear with me. So I'm going to assume it's going to be a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder as well. There's my 1/2. Okay. And I always, whenever I'm measuring, I always do it over top of my pan or dish, you know, whatever I'm cooking in. Because if you spill it, or over a trash can, that way if you spill it, you're not wasting it. And that does not want to go back on. What? Okay, you know what? We'll deal with it later. Good. Alright, then I have my oregano leaves. Let's see, let's do a teaspoon, because we did a tablespoon of the parsley. So let's do a teaspoon of oregano leaves. Looking beautiful. Alright, and then I have my minced garlic in the extra virgin olive oil. And I'm probably going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of this. You know I love my garlic, but I can get a little strong with it. So we'll do a 1/2 teaspoon because I made stromboli recently and was told there was way too much garlic in it. So I like my garlic. Alright, our ground beef is just about done. So last but not least, we got some crushed red pepper. Now this is just to give it a little bit of a bite. And I am going to do about a teaspoon of that. Now this does not make it real spicy. So you could add more or omit it completely if you don't want that little bit of a bite. Another good thing is if you wanted to add like a hot pepper or a mild pepper, you could do that at this point. It all depends on how spicy or not spicy you like your chili. Alright, so let me find a spoon. I'm just going to mix this all together. Make sure those seasonings don't stick to the side of the pan. We want this all mixed up really well inside. Looking good. Alright, so this is a little bit of a thicker base. I'll try to show you. You know what? It'd be better to bring the camera over. I'm going to try to show you. Oops. Okay, so this is a little bit of a thicker base here. Now, if you like yours more of like a soup so that, oh, let me grab that, so that you can add crackers to it. You can add up to a cup of water. Mix that up. And that makes it a little bit not so thick so that you can eat it more like a soup instead of like, I guess, a stew would be a good comparison. Nope. Okay then. I think my ground beef's telling me it's about done. It's spitting at me over here. Alright, looking good. So what I'm going to do with that is grab a colander. And I'm going to line it with some paper towels. Alright, so I got my colander. I lined it with some paper towels. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just drain this. Obviously not over my floor. Over garbage, over a pan, whatever. And then I'm going to let this sit and drain the grease off of the ground beef. So, everything's kind of in my way here. Of course. Alright. So I got that draining. I just set the colander right back into that fry pan. And I'm going to set this aside and let that drain off with all that grease. Okay. Then we're going to get our veggies ready. Alright, one thing that I did forget in my seasonings was our salt and pepper. So, kind of need those. So I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of pepper. And again, if you want this spicier, do like a cayenne or something. That's perfectly fine. And then I'm going to do a teaspoon of salt. How about that? I measured everything this time. That's rare for me on these videos. I'm trying. Alright, the next thing that we are going to do is I have a green pepper that I've already cored out and cleaned, washed it off. And then I have a large sweet Vidala onion. So what I'm going to do is chop these up. Now, some people like their peppers and onions fried or grilled up. And if you do, you could actually throw this right in with your ground beef whenever you're browning off your ground beef so that you can cook it up together. For me, I think it makes the peppers and onions a little bit too soft. Like they end up too translucent by the time the dish is done. So, I'm just doing like small, maybe 1-inch dices of peppers and onions. You can make them larger, smaller, whatever. I know some people that like these like great big chunks like this. Or you can mix them up. Do some large, some small. Doesn't matter. It's whatever you like. And again, if you don't like peppers and onions, don't add them. I'm very flexible. You don't have to follow me to a T. Do what you like. Hey, I'm doing some small, some large. I'm just mixing this all up. And I don't know why I'm doing one strip at a time. I have no idea. Normally I have a stack of them that I do, but blame it on me being tired with my appointment this morning. Alright. So I guess you don't have to sit here watching me all this. So let me I'll show you my onion. Again, I'm going to cut the slices about that thick. I always take the core out. You don't have to. You can leave it in. And then I'm going to do about the same. You know, some bigger chunks of onion. And then I'll do some that are smaller. Just going to mix it up. Because depending on how long you're going to cook this, we don't want these, if they're too small, they're turned like a translucent, and they're just kind of blend in with the, you'll get that little bit of flavor, but it's not going to be, you know, like a nice bite of onion or pepper if they're too small or overcooked. And how did that get in there? I missed a piece of the core. That is so unlike me. If you watch my other videos, you know, I'm extremely picky with food. Alright. Now, honestly, I'm taking a peek here. Let me throw this in because I'm not sure if I'm going to use that other half of onion. Let me take a peek and see what I have here because we still got to add our ground beef. Yeah, I'm going to use it. Alright. Now, I've said many a times before in previous videos, I am not a professional chef. I have no training whatsoever. I just like to cook and try to combine different things and come up with something edible. If it tastes great, even better. So you will find that when I'm chopping up anything, veggies, whatever, it is not like you see on TV. Mine are not perfectly all the same size. I have some small, some large, some medium. But that's okay. That's okay. Cooking should be fun. You should not have to stress about it, right? Unless maybe you're in a cooking competition or something. Alright, so our ground beef has been draining for several minutes. Hopefully most of the grease is in the pan or on the paper towel, as you can probably see. So I'm just going to put that in there. Discard that. Alright, now we just want to stir this all up. And I'll give you a close-up here of what this looks like. Oh, that looks good. And it smells good. I keep saying I need smell-o-vision. Somebody needs to invent it. Now what we're going to do... Okay, there's two ways to do this. If you need it quick, and if you're going to be there to keep an eye on it, you want to cover this up, turn it on high for an hour or two, just to get it started. And then after the first couple of hours, you're going to turn this down on low and let it cook for another 6 to 8 hours. Overall, we want between 8 and 12 hours of cooking time. Typically, again, it depends on how small or large you made your veggies and which beans you're using. You know, you want your beans to be soft enough that they're, you know, not going to break somebody's tooth when they bite into it or something. So, I'm going to do mine 2 hours on high. And then it'll be about time for me to go to work. So I'll just turn this on low. And then I'm just going to let this cook until I get home tonight. And hopefully have a bowl before bed after I, you know, worked all night. And give myself some hearty chili. And then I'm going to have plenty of leftovers for tomorrow. This is also something that freezes very well. I use little quart-sized freezer bags. Fill that up. And that's, you know, about 2 servings, depending on how big of a serving you want. So, put them in quart-sized bags, throw them in the freezer, and then grab 1 or 2 out all winter long or whenever. And, you know, heat them up. Take them with you to work. Heat them up there. So, let me give you a quick peek here on what this looks like. How about that? Does that look amazing or what? Where did my spoon go? Let me give that a stir so you can see all the goody yumness in there. Now, this one's still a little bit on the thicker side with the juice. And again, if you like yours with a lot of crackers, you can by all means just add some extra water to it. I added a cup earlier. Oh. Okay, this doesn't want to sit down. I messed it all up. How about that? So, yeah, if you want it a little thinner than that to add crackers to it later, by all means, do so. And let this cook 2 hours on high if you're there to watch it. And then on low for another 6 to 8, I don't know, 6 to 10 hours, whatever. You want overall cooking time to be between 8 and 12 hours. Typically, if you're doing this, starting at 2 hours on high, you can usually do 5 or 6 hours on low, and it's good to go. And then if you're keeping it on low because you're not going to be there to take care of it in a couple hours, then you're going to want to just let it go, maybe 10 hours on low, 12, depending on the beans that you're using. And that's pretty much it. So there is to it. Alright, right? It's just a basic recipe. I'm going to just let this go for the afternoon and evening until I get home tonight. So, if you like this recipe, please hit that like button down there. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And that way you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. And I actually have a ton of them right now sitting on my laptop that I got to get uploaded. And probably not in order, just wherever I start. So bear with me, I'll get these all uploaded. And thanks for joining me today. Can't wait to see you next time. I keep saying I'm going to try to come up with a dessert recipe, and I will come up with one, especially with Christmas coming up. Maybe we'll bake some cookies or something. But I'm not a baker. That's my youngest sister. I am the cook. She's the baker. So I'll come up with some kind of dessert. I'll figure something out. We'll get a dessert in here somewhere. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to see you next time. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and see you next time. Have a great day.